Once upon a time, there was an old lady named Mrs. Lila. She lived in a quiet village, but she was never happy. She complained about the weather when it was hot and also when it was cold. If her food was sweet, she said it was too sweet. If it was salty, she said it was too salty. Nothing ever made her smile. One day, a cheerful young woman moved into the house next door. She smiled at everyone, even when her days were hard. Every morning, she greeted people with a bright good morning. One day, Mrs. Leela asked, "How can you smile all the time? Don't you ever feel sad or tired?" The young woman laughed softly and said, "Oh, I do, but I have learned that happiness doesn't come from outside things. It starts right here, in the heart." Mrs. Leela frowned and said, "I don't believe that. Happiness depends on what happens around you." The young woman simply smiled again. "Maybe, but I think it depends on what happens inside you." Few days later, it rained heavily. Mrs. Leela sighed, "What a terrible day! I cannot go out." But the young woman came running with an umbrella, laughing. She said, "Isn't the rain beautiful? It makes the flowers bloom." Mrs. Leela looked confused. "How can you enjoy this mess?" she asked. The young woman smiled again and said, "Because I choose to rain or shine, I can still be thankful." That night, Mrs. Leela thought about her neighbor's words. For the first time in a long while, she smiled quietly to herself before sleeping. The next day, Mrs. Leela decided to try something new. When her tea spilled, she said, "Oh no, at least I have more in the pot." When the wind blew her laundry away, she laughed. "Guess the wind wanted my help today." Her neighbors were surprised. She smiled at everyone, even children passing by, and slowly she felt lighter, happier. Weeks later, she met her cheerful neighbor again and said, "You were right. Happiness does not depend on what happens to me. It depends on how I choose to see it." The young woman smiled and replied, "That's the secret. Happiness comes from within, and once you find it, the whole world feels brighter." Thank you for listening to Glow Mind, where stories warm your heart and help you learn English through meaning.